Grigory Potanin. Grigory Nikolayevich Potanin, alt. Grigory Potanin, Russian, October 4, 1835, June 6, 1920, was a Russian ethnographer and natural historian. He was a Victorian-era explorer of Inner Asia, and was the first to catalogue many of the area's native plants. On home soil, Potanin was an author and a political activist who aligned himself with the Siberian separatist movement. Life. Early life. Potanin attended a page corps in Omsk, a military school for children from wealthy families. Potanin initially traveled to Siberia while serving with a Cossack division in Altai in the 1850s. He returned to St. Petersburg in 1858 to study mathematical physics. He was arrested for his participation in student demonstrations in 1861, and expelled from St. Petersburg University. After spending 3 months in Petropavlovskaya Fortress, he returned to Siberia. After leaving prison, he traveled to Siberia with Nikolai Myodrintsov, where he began to work as a publisher. Due to his support for regionality and rights for Siberian peoples, he was arrested on charges of supporting separatism for Siberia in 1867. Convicted, he was sentenced to 3 years in prison and 15 of hard labor. His hard labor was reduced to 5 years, and during those 5 years he wrote a book on the history of Siberia. In 1876, Potanin led an expedition into Mongolia. The expedition spent the winter of 1876 to 1877 in Kogdo, with bitter cold and few provisions. While there, the expedition collected various biological specimens and conducted ethnological research. The expedition split into 2 parts upon leaving the city in the middle of March, 1877. Some members went to Hanchai, while Potanin and some others left for Hami and Uliastai. 1884 to 1886 expedition. Potanin journeyed to northern China from 1884 to 1886 with Augustus Ivanovich Skassi. His expedition departed Peking on May 13, 1884. The expedition traveled first over the Yutaishan Mountains, arriving in Hohhot. The expedition left Hohhot and traveled across the Yellow River into the Ordos Desert. They traveled to the ruins of Borobalgasun and from there on to Langchao. He encountered a Turkic people called the Salars, and Potanin recorded information about their language. He then spent time recording the cultural practices of the Amdos Mongols. The party then traveled to Xining and met its governor, who authorized their travel into eastern Tibet. They departed Xining and went to Mingqiao, crossing the high-altitude Tibetan plateau, where they recorded information on the native vegetation. There, the expedition visited Gui Dui, Baonan, Labrang and Josie before reaching Mingqiao. The expedition ran out of supplies in Sungpang Ting, and turned back towards Langchao, stopping in Lunganfu, Vensheng, Xichao, Hengchangfu and Didao. They spent the winter of 1885 in the Kumbu Monastery, before returning to Russia. While there, he was the first foreigner to report on the East Yugur and West Yugur languages, making a glossary that was published with assistance from Vasily Radlov in his book on the expedition, The Tonggu Tibetan Borderlands of China and Central Mongolia in 1893. The book also contains a language glossary for the Solar language. Later life. In 1889, Potanin led the group that formed the first university in Russian Asia, Tomsk State University, in Tomsk. Potanin was arrested in 1905 for his support of the Revolution of 1905. Potanin was a leading light in the Oblastniki, which aimed at some degree of regional self-government for Siberia, but this movement lacked any party or regional organization, and was limited to a small group of intellectuals mainly based at Tomsk University. It was here that they organized a regional conference in August 1917, and a congress in October to draft a constitution for an autonomous Siberia. Potanin was elected chairman of the Provisional Siberian Council December 8, 1918 at Tomsk by delegates from the major centers of Siberia. But this assembly was largely dominated by the Esri, social revolutionaries, SRs, and Potanin resented being used as a mere figurehead and resigned in protest January 12, 1918 as the first Sibaduma convened. Subsequently he abandoned the idea of Siberian autonomy in favor of a strong central authority able to restore order and defeat the Bolsheviks. The members of Sibaduma dispersed or were rounded up by local Red Guards on the night of January 25 to 26, 1918. Potanin died at Tomsk in June 1920. Potaninskaya Street in Novosibirsk, Russia, is named after him. A species of Chinese skink, Cincella potanini, is named in his honor. The handsome Chinese tree Ruspotaninia, which glows like a red banner in autumn, also bears his name. Also the asteroid 9915 Potanin, discovered in 1977, bears his name. Discovered in 19